Hey there, Seahawks, it's Miss Adams, and in this video we're going to talk about difference of squares and using square roots. All right, the steps to use for difference of squares. First, you want to make sure that you actually have a difference of squares. So it must be a subtraction sign and that you can take the square root of both terms. So it's going to be two terms, a binomial with a subtraction sign in between, and both terms have to be perfect squares. So use the following rule to factor. If I have a squared minus b squared, so some term that is a perfect square minus another term that's a perfect square, then I'm going to factor it into a minus b and a plus b. And then you can check your work by distributing. All right, when you take the square root of a negative, you'll get an imaginary number. And since we are not going to work with imaginary numbers in Algebra 1, we are just going to say that we cannot, that this is no solution. All right. Square root method, if we get x squared alone on one side, then we're going to square root both sides, and you're going to have a positive and a negative solution. And then you want to use the square root method if you're looking for solutions, and use the difference of squares when you're looking for factors. All right, so find the factors. X squared minus 4. All right, so I know it's going to be a positive for one of my factors and a minus for the other factor. And I'm going to take the square root of both terms. So the square root of x squared is x, so each factor is going to get an x. And the square root of 4 is 2, so each factor is going to get a 2. So my solution is x plus 2, x minus 2. 81 minus x squared. One of my factors is going to be a plus, one of them is going to be a minus, and I'm going to take the square root of both terms. So I'm going to have the square root of 81 is 9, and the square root of x squared is x, so it's going to be 9 plus x and 9 minus x. All right, 9b squared minus 100. I'm going to have the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of b squared is b, and the square root of 100 is 10. So it's going to be 3b plus 10 and 3b minus 10. 25x squared minus 49. Okay, I'm going to take the square root of both terms. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 49 is 7. Okay, remember square roots. So 7 times 7 makes 49. 5 times 5 makes 25. X times x makes x squared. So we're just working backwards. So we're going to have 5x plus 7 and 5x minus 7. Number 5, I have 2x squared minus 72. So I'm going to divide by 2. All right, so I'm going to pull a 2 out first. And then I'm going to have x squared minus 36. If I didn't pull the 2 out, then I couldn't use difference of squares. So now I can use difference of squares with the stuff in the parentheses. So I'm going to have that 2, and then the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 36 is 6, so it's going to be x minus 6 and x plus 6. And then 18x squared minus 50. On this one, I can also pull out a 2, so that's going to leave me with 9x squared minus 25. Well, 9 is a perfect square, x squared is a perfect square, and 25 is a perfect square. So I can use difference of squares. The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to have 2 that I've already pulled out. Then I'm going to have 3x plus 5 and 3x minus 5. All right, find the root zeros or solution. So this I'm going to actually figure out what x equals. So I'm going to use a square root method. I'm going to try to get x squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. That gives me 2x squared equals 128. Divide both sides by 2. That gives me x squared equals 64. And then when I take the square root, I get positive or negative 8. Okay, because negative 8 times negative 8 would give me 64, and positive 8 times positive 8 would give me 64. So you're always going to have two solutions when you take the square root, a positive and a negative. All right, number 8, x squared equals 81. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I'm going to get x equals positive or negative. The square root of 81 is 9. And this one, I'm going to get x squared by itself, so I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides. That's going to give me 3x squared equals 432. Divide by 3, and I get x squared equals 144. 144 is a perfect square, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get x equals positive or negative 12. All right, 10, I'm going to add 567 on both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 7. I get x squared equals 81. Take the square root of both sides, so I get x equals positive or negative 9. All right, that's it.